This episode is proudly brought to you by the Afrocentric Group, Southern Africa's most diversified healthcare group, building a winning health offering. Hello and welcome to another edition of AI Impact Talk. My name is Tembekile Mkhototo, and in each episode we try to look at a different aspect of artificial intelligence, especially in the context of South Africa's business industry. We've spoken about banking, we've spoken about healthcare. Some of the themes merge, and to help us, in fact, break down two concepts that have come up a lot since the beginning of AI Impact Talk. I'll introduce you to our guest in a moment. The two concepts I'm talking about are generative and agentic AI solutions. And we are fortunate enough to have with us on AI Impact Talk today, Riselle Rawthee. She is an AI research and development engineer with BBD Software. Riselle, welcome to AI Impact Talk. Good to have you with us. As I was saying, so we've spoken a lot about generative AI, agentic AI, etc. But take us back to the basics. What is the foundation and what exactly are we talking about?
Thank you for having me. So if we're going back to the basics, generative AI, it's in the name, you're able to generate content. And we're focusing on using these models, so your large language models, to be able to generate responses. This differs from agentic AI, where we're making use of these models in a much more intense or complicated manner. So the underlying foundation for agentic systems are still models, but they're trained slightly differently, or they're prompted slightly differently, so that we're able to get more critical thinking, more autonomy, and a little bit more out of your systems. So the main difference, generative AI solutions, we're generating results. They're more structured and more focused on specific tasks, whereas agentic AI solutions are more autonomous, and you're expected to have more intelligence from these solutions.
And you mentioned something very important then about getting perhaps, and I'm paraphrasing, a qualitative sort of outcome from the use of the model. How do you ensure that?
So qualitative outcome from the use of generative AI models specifically, you ensure that there's a lot of different evaluation techniques to get you those kinds of results. But I think ultimately it's determined by the use case that you have. So you use generative AI solutions a lot with RAG-based systems. RAG is retrieval augmented generation. It's very popular in the AI space at the moment. And that is the foundation for a lot of your chatbots. So the solutions that you kind of get are ones that generate responses to customers or to clients to give us very specific results based on what you've prompted them or you've asked them for.
And you build models or are involved in the building?
I don't build models. I leverage the models to build AI solutions.
What does that look like?
So I think previously, before we had generative and agentic AI, a lot of time went into building models, like you said. Now that we have the emergence of large language models, building them, I wouldn't say is a waste of time, but it is something that is very costly and requires a lot of resource, a lot of compute, a lot of time, and a lot of expertise. So we as a business find it more useful to leverage the existing models that we have, so your GPTs, your llamas, your Claudes, and we make use of those models to build custom solutions to fit client needs.
So in an everyday scenario, for someone who's not in the space, what does, give us perhaps an example of something that we may see or use every day where the leveraging has been done. What does that look like?
Chatbots. Chatbots are a great example of where it's currently being used. I think in industry, because the generative and agentic AI space is very emergent, it's very new, we're not taking a lot of these solutions directly to production, but I think Discovery Bank is one of them that has chatbots that are available and makes use of these generative AI solutions. There's quite a few, but I don't know if I'm really allowed to discuss them.
No, that's fine. Let's play it safe for now.
Yeah.
Because what I wanted to talk to you about is how you were saying, for example, that perhaps building a model at this point may not be as worthwhile or more fulfilling, shall we say, than the leveraging which you are involved in at the moment. Why is that, and when did we sort of see the change? Because I remember when the conversation was still very much about building models.
So I think the key word there is large in the language model. So large language models makes it a lot more complicated than your traditional machine learning models. And I think particularly within the software industry, I think previously we had a lot more of a separation between the AI industry and the software industry. I think the AI industry is still your traditional machine learning. Those kind of analysts, they're still very interested in building models. But in the software industry, we're more focused on building softwares or leveraging existing tools that make use of these softwares because they are a lot more compute heavy to build, to train. It is a lot more difficult. And when you have these bigger companies currently building them, it makes more sense at this stage to make use of them.
And do you still see, perhaps more generally, a lot of misconceptions around artificial intelligence, especially in the data conversation?
Yes, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that now that we have these large language models, we're able to just throw whatever we can at them and they're able to understand and interpret and give us great results. And that is not the case. The age-old phrase, garbage in, garbage out, is very much still apparent in this use case.
And currently, what are the implications of everything we've been speaking about on the role of software developers in particular? Because I'd imagine that too has changed.
So I think it is a very disruptive technology that has affected the software industry quite a bit. I think we're still waiting to see how it pans out completely because we're still in early stages. But currently within the software industry, I think it can be used as a very effective tool to make software developers' lives a lot more efficient and effective. It's also a great tool to use to learn different technologies and different tools out there.
And I want to go back just for a moment to something that you mentioned earlier, garbage in, garbage out. So the issue, and one of the issues that you're passionate about is about doing away with the notion of just throwing data at the models. Expand on why it's important to get that right, to also then be able to get the very best out of the model.
Such a great point. So I think from the experience that I've had working with prototypes and playing around with agentic AI solutions versus when I've actually started building these for customers where they actually have relevant data, it's very different when you see how these solutions can perform at a prototype kind of level where your data is very clean, very sanitized. You're also working on very small amounts of data, versus when you're actually in industry and you're having to deal with reams and reams of data. So I think a lot of people, because this generative AI and agentic AI is something that's very well known among everyone. So they see the abilities that you can have with ChatGPT and Claude and giving it reams of data and it being able to understand it really well. But they don't kind of understand the techniques that are actually behind and under the hood of these tools and IDEs.
Is it something that's easy to learn, or does it require a specific set of skills, expertise, if you will?
I think anybody can learn it if they put their mind to it. I don't think it's something...
For the sake of jobs, we'll all learn the same thing.
I think, yeah, it is something that will require a bit of skills and expertise. I don't think it's something that is very easy to just know off the bat. It's not common knowledge, if that is something that you're asking.
So how do we, and where do we go, for example, for younger people, if you're trying to acquire the skill to be able to do work like what you do?
Honestly, spend time building. And I think at this stage, generative and agentic AI solutions are very experimental. Mm-hmm. So you have to be willing to experiment, to play around, to try different things. The big thing that you need to learn to be able to first work with generative AI solutions is prompt engineering. There's a lot of resources out there that you can use to do this. But yeah, once understanding the prompt engineering aspect, but also how models actually understand the information it's given and generate its responses. You don't have to understand it at an extremely analytical level, but having a good understanding of it so that you're not under this impression that it's just magic is something that's really important to be able to build these solutions effectively.
So at what point do we call BBD Software to come into the picture, come to our rescue?
I think the easiest point would probably be at the beginning, depending on, once again, if you are a client. I think, yeah, if you want to be able to make use of AI solutions, definitely play around with it, but the types of solutions that you build versus the types of solutions that you see through your IDEs and your coding tools are not always exactly the same. If you're wanting the exact same results, then pay the prices for for using Claude and Copilot. There's the ability to build solutions from the bare bones of it, and there's the ability to use existing coding tools, and we as a company, we make use of both depending on different use cases that we have.
You mentioned pay.
Money.
What are your observations in terms of the needs in the South African business landscape, perhaps, or in any other context where you have been called in? What is most needed right now, especially within the range of options financially?
Pay in terms of what
I mean, from your
types
client's
of...
perspective, when they call you in, typically, what do you find is the need, the main need?
So the main needs from the software industry, I think, is often the generative AI aspect, which is a lot cheaper than your agentic AI solutions at times. Yeah, I think your needs would differ. Once again, I don't think it's very easy to say, but I think another thing to consider is that sometimes your coding tools do end up being cheaper depending on your use case and the way implemented. So everything comes down to analysis and finding your best solution that works for you. I don't think it's a very easy blanket answer.
Is the priciest solution always the best?
No, not at all. I think often you think that when using generative AI solutions, the only cost you're going to consider is the model. That's often the cheapest cost. The ability to host the model, to monitor the model, observe, even retrain and fine-tune those models, those are where actually the costs kind of occur, as well as storing the data so that we're able to leverage that data when building these AI solutions. That's the more costly part. So it's actually the data, it's not necessarily the model.
All right, and I made a note of something else I wanted to ask you, and that's about how engineers should actually balance being tech agnostic, for want of a better phrase, with the need to stay current in an evolving space.
So I think you said it quite nicely, engineers. I feel like engineers generally want to build solutions and solve problems. That's often when you hear an engineer, that's the first thing that they say. And I think everybody in the software industry has to start taking that point of view, because we are entering a space where AI is able to do a lot of things that we once considered very specialized, like coding in the most elite of languages or having the best ability to create them. And I'm not saying that as software engineers, these AI models are able to generate better code than us. Often we've seen that that's not the case, but it is able to make us a lot more effective and speed up our workload. So in doing so, in order for us to still stay very current and be able to wither the storm of AI, I think you really have to focus on being tech agnostic and focus on building software solutions. So things that AI will not have is that human touch, that ability to take business requirements and convert them into solutions and actually understand what it needs from a technical standpoint.
Please finish your point.
It will be able to then take those solutions and develop the code for you. But then once again, it's not able to tell you whether or not it's the best code or not. That's up to you to decide.
And I'm hearing, I wonder if this is true, you can help us out here, someone who's in the space, the notion that soft skills are becoming increasingly important for tech professionals. Is that true, and why?
I would say that soft skills is always extremely important for tech professionals. But yes, I think now that we do have AI, and once again, it's able to do a lot of things that once before we as tech professionals were able to do, and it was considered highly specialized and very in demand. Now I think that demand is slightly reducing because we have the ability to work with these coding agents. So yeah, you would definitely need a lot more soft skills because AI does not have that. AI is not human. It's not a human touch. So that ability to be able to consider a client's needs from that human standpoint is very important. The ability for you as a software engineer to be able to work with teams and collaborate with others is something that AI can never take away. So I think the nice part there is that if you focus on soft skills, that's something that can never be replaced.
Because I would imagine the importance of collaboration also feeds into sometimes the quality and the level of innovation, right? Because
100%.
I might have an idea, but because we're working together, that might spark something in you.
Yes.
That elevates what I suggested.
And that is often what happens when you're working with peers is you will inspire others, you will encourage others. You are not meant to be the be-all and end-all of solutions. You're meant to have people below you and meant to have people above you to help you and to help others.
Is there a lot of that currently where you are?
Yes, I would say the culture at BBD is very great. We do foster collaboration quite highly. We also have a grad program which actually starts collaboration from the day you enter the company.
And how do you go about keeping up with industry trends? Because it's one thing to see what the guy down the street or in the next suburb is doing, but you're now in an industry where a company based in Kenya might be your competitor, as might be someone sitting in London, Washington, New Delhi, Hong Kong, Beijing, whatever.
The short answer is social media. I think as a generation, we are so focused on scrolling 24/7. If we shift the idea of scrolling through memes to scrolling through what is happening in AI and what is happening, like you said, with your competitors, not necessarily to foster, anything negative, but to see how everybody else is working. I think that's also a great way to enforce collaboration out of just your company.
And Riselle, just as we're nearing the end of our conversation, I wanted to get a sense from you on advice, perhaps for younger engineers just coming into industry, as well as business people, on how best to leverage, as you were saying, is what you do, the current technology that's available.
So for younger people just coming into the industry, my advice would be to build. Play with tech, play with different techniques, have as much fun as you possibly can with experimenting, because that is the best way to learn. For businesses, I think on the same sort of idea, but focus on understanding the different technologies within agentic and generative AI and how these solutions actually work for your business model, as well as if you're able to provide clients value. There is no point putting this on your business model as something that you offer as a service, but having no technical people to actually build the solutions, or expecting technical people to just now jump into this type of area of software and start building solutions when they've had no experience before.
On that note then, what does AI mean to you?
AI, what does it mean to me? That's a great question. I think it's leveraging machines and technology in a way that mimics human intelligence. So it's using machines to make humans' lives easier.
Riselle, it's been such a pleasure. No, I said pleasure. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Riselle, by the way, one of the people to speak to if you're interested, especially in AI research and development. She's an AI research and development engineer with BBD Software. Riselle Rawthee speaking to us here on AI Impact Talk. My name is Tembekile Mkhototo. Catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching. This episode is proudly brought to you by the Afrocentric Group, Southern Africa's most diversified healthcare group, building a winning health offering.